What is up, guys? Humble Farmer Taiki here. Happy New Year, and what better way to kick off the new year than with a big airdrop. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe and check out the premium Discord. Link will be in the description below. Prices will be going up at the end of the month. So let's get right into it. So Dymension is one of those projects that I've been talking about a lot on Twitter, and they just announced today, or like basically half an hour ago, that they'll be distributing 7% of the token supply to various community members. And this is a good summary. So if you staked more than one Atom token, one TIA token, or 10, actually, let's just go to the to this part, right? So if you staked 10, at least one Atom, then you're eligible for some tokens. If you stake at least 10 OSMO, you'll be eligible for some tokens. And then if you staked at least one Atom, you'll be getting some tokens as well. So this is a really capital efficient yield farm, right? Because one TIA is basically $13. And let's say you stake $20 for the TIA at this wallet. I haven't really checked how many tokens that like if you staked one TIA, how much tokens you get, but I would assume that you would get at least a couple $100 worth. And I'll talk about valuation later, but keep in mind this is only available until January 21st, and snapshot was taken on December 19th. So just let that be known. But I still think that airdrop farming is going to be one of the biggest narratives, I think, this year. And I mentioned this last week, but I think staking TIA, Atom, OSMO, either 1, 2, or 3, I mean, depending on like what you're willing to do, it might be one of the kingmaker trades in 2024. It's very capital efficient, right? You can just stake $20 worth and get maybe thousands of dollars worth of airdrops per wallet throughout the course of the year. It captures the general narrative around the Cosmos ecosystem. And also, sentiment around Atom is really bad. And I think both Cosmos and Solana have a really good alt L1 comeback story. Solana is doing really well. The narrative is on, the monolithic chain, and it survived FTX. That was like the DAO moment, etc. And it's going to come back. And also Cosmos, they did really, they did well last cycle. And then when Luna and USD collapsed, the entire chain, the entire ecosystem, their liquidity got destroyed because a lot of, USD was kind of like the base stablecoin in the Cosmos ecosystem. And when that went to zero, then it kind of kills off the entire liquidity, right? But despite all that happening, dollars have continued to build on the Cosmos SDK and also on Solana, despite token prices going to the gutters. And we've already had huge past and upcoming airdrops to bootstrap liquidity and community. Solana had Jito, they had PICA, right, the Oracle token, and they're also gonna have Jupiter. And then Cosmos had Celestia, which was already a huge airdrop. And then I think Dymension will follow, rather quickly, rather soon. So going back to the eligibility criteria. So if you staked some Cosmo, Atom token, TIA token, or OSMO token, you get some tokens. Ethereum L2. So 1% of the supply is going to go to Arbitrum and Optimism users. So I think if you got the Arbitrum airdrop, which I'm pretty sure we all did, you're going to get some tokens, which will be pretty nice. And then also Solana users, 1% to people that use the bridge. So I'm going to have to check a lot of wallets, right? So I have a lot of EVM wallets, and in the past couple of weeks, honestly, I've been spending so many hours just setting up this TIA Atom airdrop farming operation. That's kind of what I've been calling it in the premium Discord. But I think, unfortunately, December 19th was I wasn't literally in the middle of setting this up. So I think I'm only going to be eligible for like 20% of my wallets. But hey, I can't complain, right? It's free money. And also, if you held some Pudgy Penguins, Madlats, Sensorians, or Bad Kids, you also get some tokens. I think at the data snapshot, I hold 2 Pudgy Penguins, so that's like roughly 40 tokens, which it's pretty nice. So let's talk about the valuation. So obviously, Celestia has been a huge airdrop. Unfortunately, literally, I was eligible for Celestia on multiple wallets, but I was too lazy to claim just because I was geo-blocked. And that was like $13,000 ish per wallet, which was kind of ridiculous. But I said, I was wrong. I'm stupid. I ended up buying Celestia at like $13 at the PICA top because I just wanted to just set this entire thing up. And it's cool because when you're doing this, the USD value of Celestia, Atom, OSMO, it doesn't really matter, right? Of course, it does matter depending on how much size you put in. But if you're, let's say, putting in 1 to 5% of the portfolio into just setting this up, it's really capital efficient. It's just very time intensive. So it's all about how much time are you willing to put in to set yourself up for potential success, because there's still a lot of uncertainty, right? Because today it was announced that literally all you had to do was stake $20 worth of TIA, and then you got a bunch of tokens. But we didn't know that. So maybe future teams will go off of this airdrop model, and then like do the same thing, right? Maybe the copying and pasting the airdrop criteria is going to be the easiest, because these developers, like, they don't really care about, I mean, they should care about, I guess, not letting, one person get a bunch of tokens. But, it's really hard to prevent, I guess, like airdrop farmers, et cetera, et cetera. So, maybe in the future, staking $20 worth of Atom or TIA is going to be good enough. Maybe it's $100, $200. I think the best thing to do is to just hedge, right? Just by, some wallets stake 2 TIA, some wallets stake 20 TIA, some wallets stake 50 TIA. I mean, like to kind of like do like those range, like tranche it. That's kind of what I've been doing. But who knows? Like, hopefully it's going to be a good one. So yeah, very capital efficient. I think the Cosmos and Solana narrative this year is going to be pretty strong. And I think, actually, yeah, let's kind of talk about the actual application, right? Like, okay, we talk about airdrop farming. Okay, let's actually talk about what Dymension is. So if you go, I mean, first of all, if you want to learn about the entire Cosmos ecosystem, I uploaded a 55-minute video last week talking about this entire thing. So I think this is the best place to start. I know it's long, but, spending like an hour, right, like on this video is probably gonna save you more time later when you're just trying to like do some TLDR summaries like on Twitter or something. But I think the modularity narrative is going to be a huge one this year. Solana has the monolithic narrative. So monolithic means, one chain that does it all. And then modularity tries to split up the base chain, or sorry, like the settlement layer with like L2s. And Ethereum is trying to do both, I suppose. Like Ether is more on the modularity camp, but I think Celestia does it better. So I think Ethereum might be something like a modulithic narrative. And, yeah, I think Ether, the asset, has some issues in this coming cycle. I think they're kind of losing its narrative. But anyways, Celestia, they focus on the data availability layer. And I'm not going to get too technical in this video, but the idea is that Celestia makes it easier and cheaper to deploy new rollups and blockchains. And Celestia just deployed its mainnet a couple months ago. So because they did that, we should expect this year, next year, and I mean, over like the next 5-10 years, that more and more rollups to use Celestia as the DA layer to deploy their own rollup. And all these rollups and all these blockchains should have a token. And part of the Cosmos ethos is that whenever a new L1 or L2 launches using the Cosmos SDK, they split, or they distribute some of their token supply to the community via airdrops. So if Celestia makes it easier for new rollups to launch and all these new rollups will have tokens, then it should be optimal to stake some TIA across multiple wallets, don't you think? So Dymension is going to be one of the first ones. And yeah, so Celestia makes it easier for new rollups to launch, and then Dymension builds on top of Celestia and makes it easier for roll apps to launch, so application-specific blockchains. And the idea is, well, maybe we stake TIA for the Dymension airdrop, which happened, and then we can stake Dymension to get airdrops of roll apps that launch. Right, I wouldn't be able to control myself. So that's part of the narrative, and I think that's kind of the narrative that could send Dymension to much higher valuations. If you ask me, right, how do I value Celestia? How do I value Dymension? I have no idea. Okay, like how do I know that this thing is worth 13 billion? I mean, the market sets that price, so I guess I can't complain. But Ansem, who is kind of like the main character of crypto right now, calling it Solana, etc., he thinks that the valuation of Dymension is going to be at least the valuation of Celestia, and which would put one price of Dymension at $13 because they have the same total supply, which is $1 billion. And if Celestia goes higher, then that means Dymension goes higher. I'm not sure if I agree with that view. I think Dymension should be worth less than Celestia, but maybe Dymension can be 50% the valuation of Celestia. That would put the FDV at, let's say, 6.7 billion. That's still a huge airdrop, right? And I mean, that's going to be roughly a $7 token per Dymension. So honestly, I have no idea how many tokens I got. So I have no idea if I should be excited. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I got like 6 figures or 7 figures worth of Dymension, and I'm euphoric. Or maybe I only got 5 figures and I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of disappointed. But I still think it's going to be a big airdrop. And I think if you got this, I think it's worth just, not selling everything, right? At least keep some. Worst case, just stake like 10% of your airdrop and then just like keep the other liquid, just so that you have the flexibility to sell or buy. But just keep this potential narrative in mind, because I think it could be a big one. And also, right, Celestia, I think is going to be generally a good token to hold in the upcoming cycle. So that's it for Dymension. I'm really excited. I have to figure out a way to claim, but that's a me problem, not a you problem, and we can exploit that together. So the next farm I want to talk about is Manta Network. So I've already talked about Manta Network 2 weeks ago, and they raised $60 million at a $500 million FDV. They're also using Celestia for the DA network, so maybe as a TS staker, I'm going to get some of their airdrop. Fingers crossed. I'm not sure if they will, to be honest, because they're already allocating 5% of the token supply to people that bridge to the chain, and they're literally forking Blast, right? So if you bridge to Manta Network, you're going to get some Manta tokens. Also, if you bridge ETH through this new paradigm bridge, it converts your ETH into staked ETH. And this staked ETH is called Stone, right? So Stone is literally staked ETH, right? It's issued by Lido. And right now, the peg of Stone to ETH is 0.93. So one Stone is worth 0.93 ETH. The reason that, obviously I don't know this for sure, but I think the reason why this is happening is, I think people are trying to maximize their Manta airdrop by bridging, right? You have to go through this process and, make sure to watch this video. But I think what people are doing is, let's say they bridge 10 ETH to Manta, right? Through the new paradigm. And they get some points and like some NFTs and boxes and whatnot, right? That corresponds to some airdrop. But they want to lever up that airdrop farming. So what they're doing is they're bridging 10 ETH to Manta, which gets converted to Stone automatically. They're selling their Stone into Ether. So in 10 ETH is going to be 9.3 ETH, right? And then they're bridging back to mainnet, and then they're bridging 9.3 ETH back to Manta, so they get 9.3 Stone, and then they're selling 9.3 Stone into 8.6, and they're kind of like looping this. And of course, if they do this enough times, maybe they bridge like 100 to 200 ETH worth of value, but they end up with 0 Stone, right? They kind of get rid of all their initial capital because they're like taking like a 7% hit every time this happens. So I think that's what they're doing. I'm less interested in like the whole looping thing. I'm not even sure if that's even worth it. But I think, right, like if you understand that this is happening, literally, like you can buy ETH at a discount, right? You can take 10 ETH, right? 10 ETH on Manta Network and then buy 10.676 staked ETH, right? It's free money. All you have to do is bridge there and pick it up on the floor. So like I've converted a bunch of my ETH into Stone, roughly a 0.9 to 0.91 peg. So I increased my ETH stack by 10%, right? And all I had to do was bridge. So I think, I talk about yield farms, but this is like literally free money. So I think it's kind of interesting and I wanted to share it with you. Just keep in mind, if you bridge via new paradigm, it converts your ETH into Stone. So you can't do the arb. If you want to do the whole arbitrage thing, you have to bridge via their main bridge, which, you bridge ETH and then, it's ETH. And then Manta uses ETH as gas. So, if you want to do that, then that could be interesting. And also, because of this wonky mechanic with airdrops, there's a bunch of farms that I think is kind of interesting. For example, Layer Bank is a money market on Manta. They have a bunch of capital supplied, right? Like over 300 million. And if you look at the yields here, they also partnered with Manta to give away some Manta tokens. You can kind of see like this Manta plus Manta sign here. And if you look at ETH, right, you get 8.64% in ETH, paid in ETH, and then 9.88% in this Layer Bank token, which I think will be a farm and dump token, and also the Manta bonus. Why are the yields so high? Well, it's similar, right? Like, people are bridging ETH into Stone, using as collateral to borrow ETH to bridge back to mainnet, bridge to Manta Network, and then, they're willing to pay a 25% APR because they think that, they can receive more than that for the airdrop. I'm not sure how true that is, right? People are just speculating, right? This is like just the market setting, I guess, like the borrow rates and whatnot. But you can lend out USDC to these people to 11%, plus 14% plus Manta tokens. Personally, I'm not interested in doing this because I'm not really interested in exposing myself to new smart contract risk, especially like new money markets. I think, they're more prone to, I guess, exploits and whatnot. But if you're a degen, right, this is like a bunch of good yield. And who knows, like maybe using the chain can get you some Manta token airdrops as well. So like I mentioned, Manta, they raised 60 million at a $500 million valuation. So fair to say token will probably be worth $1 billion to $2 billion FDV at launch, just because I think that's generally how crypto works. And if they're distributing 5% of the token supply, that's going to be roughly $50 to $100 million worth of value that's going to go into bridgers. And who knows, like maybe they also, airdrop the Celestia. That could be a good one, but just wanted to let you guys know that. And lastly, I want to talk about some Arbitrum Farms. So I talked about Arbitrum Farms a month ago in my Thanksgiving edition videos if you're interested. But Arbitrum token has been doing pretty well. I think because of the EIP 4844 narrative. It's down a little bit today, but I mean, it's been up only. I think EIP 4844 is going to come out in March or April, according to people that I've been talking to. And it's going to, the TLDR is it's going to make the cost to post data on mainnet cheaper, and therefore it should be and that cost savings should be passed off to users, and we might see a 10x decrease in average transaction cost on Arbitrum and Optimism and other Ethereum L2s. So that's a strong narrative, and Arbitrum has these short-term incentive plans. And basically Arbitrum, the DAO, is giving a bunch of tokens to various DeFi projects just to distribute to token holders and I guess DeFi users, just to I guess decentralize token supply and also I guess like use up all those tokens in the treasury. So I talked about a bunch of here, but I do want to talk about two new things that wasn't discussed in this video, and that is Woo, right? So Woo, they have these vaults, and I'll link this in the description, but you can just stake your Arbitrum here and get paid 8.4%, and this is just coming from token inflation. I think these vaults are just market maker vaults, so when you deposit money into here, it gets lent out to Kronos Research, which is one of the biggest market making firms in Asia, but according to these numbers, it doesn't seem like those market making strategies are going live yet. So literally you can just deploy capital into this vault and be paid all these high yields, right? So 22% on USDC paid in ARB. The TVL is very low. So, with all these farms, with more TVL, it gets diluted, but it is what it is. And also Gains Network, they also got some Arbitrum tokens, and they'll be going to people that trade on the network. And also I think if you LP for Gains, you'll be eligible for some token incentives as well. So, I think if you're trading perps on chain, like you should do it on Arbitrum because GMX has incentives, Mux has incentives, Gains has incentives, Perennial, another project I discussed in this video, has incentives. So lots of free money to go around. And I think generally the bull market is back. And I know prices have gone up a lot. I know there's so many narratives, and to be honest, I'm full time. I run a research company, but it's really still hard to keep up with everything. But I think a good rule of thumb is that I think retail interest, and I've seen more and more retail interest in the past couple of months, which is kind of crazy, right? Because from let's say January to October of this year, I was losing 300 subscribers a month, and then price action was like not that great. And then as soon as November hit, that's when I hit a bunch of subscribers. In December, I made like a shit ton of subscribers. It's kind of insane. If you kind of think about this, right? Like when did altcoins start to pump a lot? Like roughly November. So just keeping track of, I guess, retail interest is very important when it comes to, I guess, altcoins doing well. And literally, this is a trend, right? I mean, at least this is what I'm seeing on my channel. So I think, yes, prices are up, but I still think that this is the beginning of a new trend. And technically, we have been in a bull market since November of 2022, right? Because that was the bottom. But I think that, people are slowly coming to the terms that, okay, like we are in a bull market. It's not going to come without any corrections, right? There's going to be like a bunch of big corrections. It's going to be scary along the way. But I think that, stock market's at all-time highs. I mean, crypto is still below, most crypto is below 50% of its all-time high. So I think there's still a lot of catch-up to do. And one interesting chart I want to talk about, actually, just to, finish this video, is if you look at S&P, weekly chart of S&P, it's basically at all-time highs, right? Let's just say that we're at all-time highs after we saw like a 25% correction in the latter half of 2022. And I have the circle here, right? So, following COVID, a lot of people were bearish on the way up, and, the S&P hit new all-time highs in August of 2020. And then we had some choppy conditions, and then we just like went up only. And if you kind of look at Bitcoin price action in August of 2020, it was like here, right? And this wasn't when his stocks hit all-time highs, and then Bitcoin was, let's say, 40-ish% off its all-time high. Okay, so right now the stock market is also at all-time highs, and Bitcoin is also, let's say, 35 to 40% off its all-time high. So pretty interesting fractal here. Maybe history doesn't repeat, but it might rhyme. If you look at this circle here, we saw a 15 to 20% correction in the latter half of August to early September. So maybe we see something like that. But generally, right, that was the dip to buy. And because we just like went up only. Are we going to go up only? I have no idea. But I think, the stage is set for a pretty strong and bullish 2024. I mean, this year has been great as well, but I still think that this year should be considered to be, a green year, right? Let's say, and I think keeping up with all these narratives, right, and maybe farming with all these majors, like picking up free money, with Stone and whatnot, like depegging, I think is a good way to approach the markets. Celestia, I think, will be a good one. So hope everyone has a new year or happy new year. Hopefully, this year is better than last year. And if you like the content, right, check out the premium Discord. The link will be in the description below. Prices will be going up end of the month. And I'll see you guys later. And bye-bye. Have fun farming out there.